Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about Trump's attack on the blue slip process in the Senate. Now, this gets a little bit arcane and has to do with the hidebound traditions of the Senate, which is considered, this is kind of historical, but the more deliberative, decorous, collegial body that seems to be honored in the breach now. But there's a tradition that senators have given to other senators. And it is that if a senator from the home state of the nominee for a U.S. attorney or judge position doesn't want to advance the nominee, the senator has an effective veto. And it's encapsulated in the idea of a blue slip. There is a physical blue slip that senators return to say this is okay by me. So senators from home states have always been accorded this privilege or kind of comity, and always actually overstates it a bit. There have been a few times where parties from either party has sort of rammed through the specific nominees, notwithstanding the absence of a blue slip. This is also related. You just saw that a senator was holding hundreds of people from appointees from a certain agency and had put a hold on them. That's a different process, but similar, right? The same idea of every senator is sort of a world unto herself or himself. Okay. Trump is chafing at this, and it grows directly out of the Alina Habba debacle for him and the administration. So recall what's happened there. They did these maneuvers to try to defeat the court's appointment of a acting U.S. attorney who isn't Alina Habba. And that's because Habba got the initial interim appointment, but 120 days expired and she has yet to be confirmed. And that in turn is because the senators from New Jersey, Andy Kim and Cory Booker, have refused to give blue slips for her, understandably. So this is how it works. Someone who's really bad news, an individual senator can actually decline to let them go forward, and that sort of makes them dead in the water. Some senators have been really profligate in their use of it. Jesse Helms from North Carolina famously let nobody go through. There should be a political cost to pay, but for Jesse Helms in North Carolina, there wasn't a political cost to pay. So this can be really abused. And in general, the whole sort of hidebound traditions of the Senate permit outsized power to individual senators. Okay. Trump's a little hot under the collar about this, so he writes a social truth message saying, Chuck Grassley is the head of the Judiciary Committee, the chair of it, and that's another sort of point of senatorial respect. The chair, the senior most member of committees, have all kinds of power to move things or not, including legislation, candidates and the like. Chuck Grassley, who I got reelected to the U.S. Senate, he was down by a lot, could solve this blue slip problem with a mere flick of the pen. Democrats like Schumer, Warner, Kaine, Booker, Schiff, and other sleazebags, all in all caps, have an ironclad stoppage of great Republican candidates. So, the president of the United States will never be permitted to appoint the person of his choice because of an ancient and probably unconstitutional custom. And we have to break through this, especially because in some of these states where it's happening, that's where there's the highest levels of crime and corruption, like California. and we really need to break through. He should do this immediately and not let the Democrats laugh at him and the Republican Party for being weak and ineffective. The Democrats have broken this ridiculous custom on us, as I referred. In a couple instances, there have been exigent situations where the blockage went on so long and it was considered so important to fill it that the Democrats pushed through. Okay, we have a situation in the Senate where basically no U.S. attorney candidates have gotten through, and that's sort of a joint problem and consequence of both Republican and Democrat kind of rule. They've been focusing on other things. But again, so with Habba, she's nominated and the nomination just hasn't been taken up yet. And if Booker and Kim have their way, and they likely will, it won't get taken up. So it's a way to deal. They are not profligate blue slip, users, but Habba, and I've talked about this before, really is someone who screams out for it, given her intensely partisan and really damaging management of the office, her track record of being for Trump only. She said, actually, I want to use this position to help turn New Jersey red, for a prosecutor, kind of as inappropriate as it gets. So Trump is really focused on this, right? He really wants to win and winning to him, what counted as a loss was that after Habba's 120 days expired, the court, under the law, chooses the acting U.S. attorney. And he somehow thought it was an outrage that the court didn't just simply choose Habba, even notwithstanding that A, she's as bad as it gets, and B, it's just not the job of the court to rubber stamp the president, whoever it is. It's the job of the court, when they have to put an acting U.S. attorney in, to put the person that the court thinks is going to most responsibly, reliably run the office. They want the trains to run on time, and they don't want crazy stuff coming out of the U.S. Attorney's office. So, but that has irked Trump to the max. Habba is one of his people, and they did this maneuver they thought would work. They withdrew Habba's nomination, and made her first assistant U.S. attorney, and fired the person who the court had appointed. But it turns out, I won't give you the whole gory details, but they continue. There's complete sort of, zugzwang, I think is the chess word, in where there's two different people who are candidates for U.S. attorney, and it's not clear who is, and you can't go forward in that situation because every piece of business you do could later be challenged. A convicted defendant or whoever could say, there wasn't the person who signed that indictment wasn't the U.S. attorney, it was unlawful, etc. So it is a total mess. And the clever idea that the administration had of taking her, say, all right, we won't nominate her anymore. We'll just make her the acting forever. Has run headlong into at least an uncertain situation under the law where that maybe was or maybe wasn't effective. It has to be resolved soon, and it will be, because someone will bring it up and to a district court, but it's going to have to go through perhaps even to the Supreme Court to interpret the law according to which it possibly looks like the appointment of the other person, not Habba, but Desiree Grace, was effective, or at least the countermand by the Trump administration was not. So Trump, steam blowing out of his ears, says, I want to do it the old-fashioned way then. I want to return to, even if the court's choice stays in there, it's only until the political process runs its course and chooses the person that together the executive and Senate choose. That's another reason why the argument from the administration, you have to put in our person, is all wet. there's a political process and then a process for sort of a custodian leader of the office until the political process runs its course. So it looks as though this maneuver by Trump and the administration and Bondi hasn't worked, or at least is in very cloudy legal status. So the idea here is to push Grassley to do something that would be within the confines and culture of the Senate stunning. Senators take as their absolute prerogative the ability to block people. When I became U.S. attorney, there were 2 Republican senators either could have blocked me, and there was a lot of it was a political process to get them to agree. And that's the way it works. And senators consider that among their more important powers. They're the sovereign in their states for choosing who gets these prestigious or jobs that are, part of the sort of spoil system that they feel they can dispense. So if Grassley were to do this, and he's now under big pressure from Trump to do it, it would not please his colleagues. It would not please the Democrats. It could result in some kind of reprisal. It's not clear how it would work. So it sounds a little bit obscure, but Trump is calling, and very vehemently, and putting it all on the line. I got you elected and you were down, to get rid of a very important fundamental structural component of the Senate. It's one that, it's anti-democratic, and you could say it's sort of stupid that one senator can exercise all this power, but man, oh man, it is core, beloved, and counted on by individual senators. So Trump is pushing on Grassley to do something that would really rock their world. And, Grassley will have a lot of pushback on the other side. So we'll see how it plays out, and if he can withstand the pressure campaign from Trump to really revolutionize, is not too dramatic a word for the impact it would have on the normal nomination process for U.S. attorneys and judges in particular states. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.